Joining me now, Michael Tyler, Communications Director for the Harris for President campaign. We're counting down 100 days to the election and talking about issues that matter to black voters. The Harris campaign announcing today a $200 million fundraising haul, barely a full week into the vice president's candidacy, with 2/3 coming from first-time 2024 donors. Early polling suggests she's narrowed, if not erased, Donald Trump's national lead, and we've seen renewed enthusiasm from some black voters over the potential first black woman president, or first woman president for that matter, which we'll get to. But first, how would you, Michael, describe the campaign's first week as it heads into its second?
Well, Rev, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. We're excited about the way that the first week of this campaign has gone so far. You mentioned the record fundraising, $200 million in less than a week, 2/3 of those giving for the first time. We've had 170,000 volunteers sign up to this to volunteer for this campaign. But the fact of the matter is that we know this is going to be a very close and competitive race. So we're not waiting around. We're taking those volunteers and we're getting to work. Just this weekend, we've had over 2,300 events across all of the battleground states. Those are people who are fired up, who understand the stakes, who understand that Vice President Harris is the person to take us across the finish line and defeat Donald Trump and continue to lead this nation over the course of the next 4 years. So while we've had a very successful launch of this campaign over the course of the first week, we are not going to take our foot off the gas as we approach the final 100 days of this campaign. The American people now have a very stark choice between Vice President Harris, who has lived her entire life fighting for the American people, whether it's as a prosecutor, as attorney general, as a senator, or as vice president of the United States, fighting to expand opportunities, standing up for our democracy, standing up for our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the rights of women. And she's going to be running against Donald Trump, who every single day out on the stump, he talked about unity a couple of days ago, but ever since then has returned to the same dark, dangerous vision that we've seen from Donald Trump since 2016. And now he's out here with J.D. Vance talking about enacting their dangerous and extreme Project 2025 agenda. So for the next 100 days, that is the choice that we're going to aggressively communicate to the American people.
Well, I call it the prosecutor against the felon, but Trump's been testing out his attacks on Vice President Harris. I want to play some of a new ad that just came out, posted to his Truth Social account this morning, titled Minnesota Summer of 2020. Take a listen.
Harris sending this out on X. If you're able to chip in now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota. Thanks to Harris's promotion, the group reportedly raised $35 million in just a few weeks.
Darnica Floyd, charged with second-degree murder for stabbing a friend to death. And she got out of jail, too. A twice-convicted rapist, currently charged with kidnapping and sexual assault, and he walks out, too.
The Freedom Fund raked in donations when it was promoted by many, including now Vice President Kamala Harris.
Now, that's just a clip, but I can tell you, and you know I was involved in Minnesota. I did the eulogy for George Floyd, led marches there. I'm looking at that. Every mugshot shown in the ad is a person of color, overwhelmingly black. And I firmly believe these kind of race and gender-based attacks from Trump and the right will only get uglier in the next 100 days. This is going to be a street fight. This is not a prize fight. There'll be no 3-minute rounds, no referee. It's going to be a street fight. How is the campaign preparing for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, these sorts of attacks, these false attacks, are unsurprising. I think the vice president is ready for them. This campaign is absolutely ready for them. I think we should talk about the facts. If the Trump campaign wants to talk about crime, let's talk about crime. Donald Trump oversaw the single largest spike in the murder rate over a single year in history. Crime has fallen under this administration. And this race, as you pointed out, is going to be a choice between Vice President Harris, who is a prosecutor, versus Donald Trump, who's a convicted felon running to serve himself himself in this race. So we're very prepared for this sort of attacks that we've already seen from their campaign, that we're going to continue to see over the course of the next 100 days. But what we are going to focus on, we're not going to be bothered by their nonsense. We're going to focus on the fundamental choice the American people are going to see in Vice President Harris, somebody who, whether they were a prosecutor standing up for women and girls, whether they were an attorney general taking on the big banks to get $20 billion for homeowners and their families, or somebody who, when they were in the Senate or as vice president, has stood up for reproductive rights, taken on the gun lobby, establishing the first White House office of gun violence prevention, has been a champion for working people. And on the other side, you got Donald Trump, who's a convicted felon fighting for himself. So that's the choice that we're going to make sure that the American people understand when they go to the ballot box in November.
Now, staying with that, we learned today that President Biden will be in Houston tomorrow to pay respects to the late Sheila Jackson Lee, who will be laying in state at City Hall. I'll be attending as well, and I'll come back on Thursday at the invitation of a family to speak at the funeral. Vice President Harris will also attend the funeral on Thursday, as they were close friends and sorority sisters. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask if the vice president is impacted at all by the history that her victory could represent to millions of black women, black or otherwise for that matter. I was youth director in '72. I was 17 going on 18 for Shirley Chisholm's campaign, and I know the impact this is having on a lot of women, including those that never lived to see it, like Sheila Jackson Lee. I will be going as a guest of the president with others down to the LBJ Library and then on to Sheila Jackson Lee. And the civil rights record of both the president and Kamala Harris is something that absolutely Donald Trump has been on the other side of.
It absolutely has. I think you have to look no farther than the types of nominees that these administrations have put up and confirmed to the federal judiciary. Under the Biden-Harris administration, you've seen a record number of black women at the federal appellate court. And then on the other side, you've got Donald Trump's nominees. He proudly talks about it every single day out on the stump. He's the one who appointed the nominees who overturned Roe v. Wade and who have led all of these attacks on affirmative action, DEI, and all the rest. And so the American people are going to have a very, very stark choice when it comes to the type of leadership that we're going to have and the impacts that it has for the judiciary, for civil rights, for voting rights, and everything else that is at stake in this election. It's important for the American people to understand that, and that's what this campaign is going to communicate for the next 100 days.
And on that point, I'll be joining others, Senator Warnock, Congressman Clyburn, Mark Morial, and others. We'll be going with the president to Austin, Texas tomorrow to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act at Lyndon Johnson Library. And this weekend, Trump told the crowd at a conservative Christian summit that his success in November would mean they would have to vote again in 4 years. Given his frequent statements suggesting he'll do away with democratic norms if elected, what do you take from this? And do you think these statements are being taken seriously enough?
I think they certainly should be taken seriously. This is a man who, as you said yesterday, was talking about the fact that we wouldn't need more elections if he wins. This is the same guy who said that there'd be a bloodbath if he loses. This is the same guy who talks about ruling as a dictator on day one if he wins. I think we should take him very, very seriously. And so that's what this election is fundamentally going to be about. You've got the vice president who's running to expand opportunities so that people can not just get by but get ahead. She's running to restore women's reproductive rights, restore Roe v. Wade, stand up for the rights of all Americans, and she's running to strengthen and protect our democracy and running against a guy in Donald Trump who's threatening to tear it all down. He's telling us to our face what he intends to do if he's able to regain power. So we're obviously charged up about the energy and the enthusiasm that we have over the course of this first week, but we remain laser focused on what the actual stakes of this election are, and we want to make sure that the American people understand that for the next 100 days.